Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Hello and welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. It is our off-air podcast that we do on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We usually go live on the Miguel and Holly Instagram, Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Yes.
But make sure to check out our other podcasts we have, like Miguel and Holly's Blown Off, or Miguel and Holly Full Show, Queen City Confessions, on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just type in Miguel and Holly, and all of our different podcasts will come up. And spread the word about the podcast, please. It helps us if you tell at least one person, or even I love, and I can't think of her name right now. I think her Instagram name is like Beachcomber or something, but she always takes walks and listens to the podcast.
Amber.
Mhm.
Right?
Amber, yes, Amber. And then she'll like post a screenshot of her listening on the iHeartRadio app. So we really appreciate that, and that helps us. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we are doing this week Miguel and Holly's origin stories.
Okay.
So we did this a few years ago, Holly, on the podcast. Can you sort of what is an origin story? What does that mean?
It is kind of your backstory. Why and how did you get to be the person that you are today that we are talking to? And it was I got the idea from another podcast that did a similar concept, but we did this, I want to say like in maybe 2016.
Mhm.
So obviously things have changed a little bit. And it's just a good way for you, if you're relatively new to listening to this podcast, or even if you're not, get a refresher about who we are and why you might be choosing to listen.
And and when we did it, I mean, that was during producer Jared. So that was actually, I think, in 2015.
Oh my gosh.
When we did
was
that.
it
Yeah.
maybe late?
It was late 2015. Yeah, because he was with us that summer and fall before Ryan came on with us.
So Nikki was really not there at all?
No, Nikki was there for just the first few months.
That's it?
It wasn't. It seems like it was longer than that, but
Yes,
it was
it
only
does.
the first few months, because it was by that summer. She went
Jared
over
came.
to our sister station at the time,
Oh.
and then Jared came. So.
Man, that doesn't seem like it. I felt like she was there for the whole first year. Anyway, okay, so maybe 2015, yeah.
Yeah, so time has gone by, and for the new Charlotte folks that are hopping in, just a little, here's who we are. So up first is producer Kelbin. So Kelbin,
Yes, Miguel.
Oh,
who you is,
welcome to it.
who you are.
I'm a delusional bitch.
That's
who
true.
Loves a good mimosa
Mm.
and video games. The
Correct.
end.
That's a good summary. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
tell us, who is Kelbin live, and how did he get here in Charlotte, North Carolina, working with Miguel and Holly?
Okay. I am not exactly sure how to formulate the whole story of Kelbin, but I will try my best.
Okay.
I was born in 93, SoFlo in Miami, Florida, and I am a son of immigrants. My dad worked for the Nicaraguan government, and when everything was being overtaken, he decided to flee, obviously, and he brought his 3 kids with him from his first marriage. I still don't have much of how my mom got with my dad during that time, because I know that
What,
he was
really?
still, like, I know that he was still mourning, but I don't think that he had mourned that long for his loss of his wife.
Wait, did she
It's,
pass?
She passed?
Yes.
Oh.
And so I had always thought about that. So it's funny that we're talking about that now. But anyways. not
Wait,
the
so
point.
did they meet over in Nicaragua, or was it here in America?
Yes, in Nicaragua.
Okay.
Yes.
And so they came together with kids from his first marriage.
So he had to go first. And then I think he was just trying to set up things and make sure everything was good. He worked over in America, I think, for a little bit before he was able to bring my mom over. But my mom had to come illegally. And my mom, like, crossed through Mexico. She crossed through some rivers, and she had my
What?
sister from her first relationship. And she was a baby. And my sister can tell you, she remembers her earliest memory being on top of my mom, walking through the river and getting through it.
Wow.
crazy.
Insane.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So
And
they like physically or like on foot cross the border into America?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I think my dad came by plane, and I think he was more legal, if anything. It was just easier to do that back in the day.
Right.
But my mom definitely did illegally, and she was caught in Texas.
Ooh.
And I don't know who it was, but the police officer or whoever who detained her was like, "Look, you have a kid, just go."
Oh,
And they let her go. And I did this thing in my last job where we all brought in a photo that said, what's your why? What is your why, and why do you do what you do? And I brought a picture of like me as a kid with my mom. And I remember telling this story, and like it still hits me now. It's that moment that my mom told me after she was let go, is that she was asking people for help, walking dirty. The
Mm.
clothes were disgusting after the
Mhm.
river, and just asking for somebody for help. And I couldn't get that image out of my mind. Like I've never seen my mom struggle, like any of that nature. But when she told me that story, I was like, oh my God, like how traumatizing.
yeah,
And
very much.
so I had told that story to everybody at my last job. And so thinking about it now, like, wow, they've really just they've gone through hell and back just to come here for a better opportunity for all of us. And yeah, and then luckily a woman ended up finding her, giving her a home, taking care of her, taking care of my sister too, and like really set her off on a great path in life.
I mean, so was she literally your mom like walking down the street with your sister and someone said, "Let me help you"?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's
so
incredible.
yeah, it's insane.
Does that make you look differently? I'm sorry, we're interjecting questions.
No.
Does that make you look differently at people that are like panhandlers or they're unhoused or whatever? Does that make you want to help more because you know that, the circumstances your mother was in at the time?
It's wild because I've had a few of these thoughts recently. One, living in Uptown, right? Like
Mhm.
being in downtown where everybody's dressed really nice, but then the polarization of there's still a lot of homeless people around.
Right.
Mhm.
And I had that like really huge reflection walking down Uptown the other day, and this morning too. So it's funny that you asked that. On my way to work, now that I take a new route, I go through Uptown more
Mm.
than using the highway to go to work. And there's this same person every single day that I see that is just bundled up on the bus stop. And I
Mm.
always feel so bad
Right.
that I get really emotional, like right before work. And I was thinking about like, what could I do tomorrow? Like,
Mm.
what can I do to help? Um, so it's really funny that you asked that question.
Wow. So your mom gets picked up. Is this still in Texas?
Yes.
And
Okay.
she's trying to find your dad, or what was she trying to get to your dad?
So yes. So to meet everyone that had finally come all the way down to Miami, Florida. And
Mhm.
so I don't know necessarily that part of the story, but I know that they all ended up in Miami. They were in like some warehouse for a few days until they were finally able to find a place. They started couch hopping with a few people. And finally they worked hard enough to finally get our first home. And that's the
Mhm.
only home that I ever like was raised in, thankfully, in Kendall, Florida.
Was this an apartment or a house?
It was I guess a villa, somewhat of a townhome,
Mm.
but a villa more than anything. Um, and so it was connected.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, and I was raised there my whole life.
And you were born there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So your mom makes it down to Miami. Your dad, because he has 3 kids, and then she has
One.
1.
Mhm.
So they're all living together.
Yes.
And how many bedrooms, bathrooms?
It was a 3-2. And so by the time I came into the picture, they were grown. And so I think that maybe, if anything, there was probably 2 of them per room,
Mm.
the
Mhm.
girls and then the guys. Um, and so by the time that I popped out, most of them were gone already. I think I
So,
only lived with brothers and sisters until I was like maybe 4 or 5.
are you the only child that your parents had together?
Yes, the perfect child. Mhm.
That's that's so funny that you say that, because I feel like people in your situation are like, well, I'm obviously I'm the best one. And I feel like the brothers and sisters, like your brothers and sisters, 'cause we used to work with somebody that was I had a similar story where it's like there's the one of the combination of the parents, and then all the other kids are just like, this
Mm.
bitch.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because on top of that, I was also the baby, and they were already established in America. Like they had their jobs.
Right.
And they could provide me with everything that I needed. So that came with a lot of resentment.
From your older siblings?
Yes, from my older siblings.
So did you feel that growing, or okay, so what's the age difference between your older siblings?
The oldest is in her 40s. So it's a good 10, probably 10 good years apart.
So by the time you could sort of recognize, you know, and you were talking and playing with them, you know, they're in their late teens,
Yes,
early 20s. So would they be mean to you then?
my sister was. She was very, very mean to me. But granted, she didn't have anybody. She was from from my mom's side. And so she was the lonely one. She didn't have a brother or sister that she came along with. She was just by herself. And so um I'm learning more about her story growing up and just like how lonely she had felt. And so I think we had realized and learned, and now she's going to therapy and I'm super proud of her for that. We learned that she built a lot of resentment towards me growing up. And yeah, so that was probably the meanest person to me growing up was my sister. I remember, and we laugh about it now, but I remember we were tasked with picking up the leaves in the backyard, and I was like, we make a really great team. And she goes, "Go fuck yourself."
Oh,
And we laugh about it now.
Oh
but
my God.
But when she laughs about it, she's also crying, and she's like, "I'm so sorry. Like, why would I say that?"
How old
how
was she?
old? Yeah, how old are you? How old was she?
She had to have been maybe 15 or
Oh.
something, and I was, I don't know, 5.
That's that
Yeah.
time to for anybody, men or boys, girls, when
Yeah,
you're
that's
just
a bad-
angry
that's a
at
bad
the
time.
world.
It's a bad time. I could see that. Like that's a lot of feelings to be in her position. And obviously you're like, what? I'm just trying to exist,
Just
man.
really nice. But I was really obnoxious as a child. I mean, as an adult, I am too.
Well, who's
But-
not? Let's be
right.
honest. Like,
Right.
and if you're not an obnoxious child, then you were expected to be the quiet, perfect one, and you have issues too. So it's
Right.
either way.
So I recognize that. Like I was seeing some home videos and I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking annoying. And so I could understand why she would like lose her patience with me. But yeah, that's the one that my sister was the one that I did not get along with the best. But now we are the closest, ironically. Yeah.
All right. So you're young, you get to middle school, high school. All of your brothers and sisters are now out of the home, right? So it's just you and
Yes.
your parents. So what was middle school, high school like for you?
Middle school was interesting. It was fun. I had a squad and we would always celebrate early release days. I don't think really anything super crazy happened in middle school. I think in 8th grade, I started to realize that I had feelings for boys or men, boys, I guess, in middle school. And it's weird because when I grew up, I only had crushes on girls. And like, I would go really intense with it, like want to ask him out and go to lunch and things like that. And by the time 8th grade happened, and I think puberty and all that,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I think I really like guys now too. And I was so confused, but I kind of just like let it off. And I didn't really rediscover that until high school in 11th grade.
Now, do you remember your first thought, or can you remember the first time that you thought, oh my gosh, like I may be different, or I like this guy in my class? Do you have that memory?
It's weird because it confused me more than anything. Like I didn't have enough time to process, like, am I queer? I didn't, that thought didn't even come to my mind. I was just like, oh, I'm attracted to these guys now. And I didn't think of putting a label on it because I never really understood putting a label on it. I also had some fear too. My sister was shunned from the family when she came out. And I knew how my dad always felt about gay people and all the terrible and awful and hurtful things that he has said about her, about anything that was popped up on TV. And so, yeah, I kind of just didn't even bother to entertain the idea. And
do you remember when your dad would say stuff about gay people? Did it hurt you, or did you just go like, ooh, glad that's not me?
Thank goodness it's not me, because I feel like that's almost a denial mechanism that helps keep you safe.
I always felt like I needed to stick up for them, us.
Mm.
I that's what I always did. Like when he would pick on my sister about it, I would stand up and say, "That's my sister that you're talking about. Like you need to stop." And at the end of the day, these are people.
Mhm.
And so I think that's how it always was with me. Or I think as I got older, I became more vocal about it. But I think as a kid, I just didn't say anything. Like maybe I agreed with him at the time. I don't really remember that. I
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I was. But
Yeah. So you said you picked it back up in like 11th grade, and I know we're jumping, so let's go backwards after this. But like,
Mhm.
why then did that become more prominent then after a period of time of like 4 or so years that it sort of was non-existent?
yeah, I was bullied a lot in high school. And I think a lot of people were angry that I just didn't come out. And it was always like, you're a fag, you're a fag, you're a fag, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay. And I would only have girlfriends because they were the only ones that were really nice to me. And I didn't feel comfortable with them telling me that because I
Mhm.
wasn't comfortable with it myself. And so it was a constant battle and argument with people. And I always dated girls too, even though those were the rumors during high school. And so I always felt uncomfortable by that label or that sexuality. Gay, you're just gay.
How would you respond to it when people would say that?
I just say I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. Like that was it.
Yeah.
It would just always be uncomfortable though. It'd always be like an embarrassing thing. And I hated it. It was
Mm.
so uncomfortable.
How?
I think that was society at large at that time too.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It was 2010. Like seeing two guys hold hands was like a big deal at that
Mhm.
time. And so, yeah, I don't know. I wonder if kids are getting bullied now these days for it.
I think it depends on where you are.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
think so
I
too.
think if you're in a metro area,
Yeah.
it's fine, but out, in smaller cities, probably not so much.
Yeah.
How did being bullied affect you when you were in high school? Like, did you shy away from certain activities? Did you seek help? Did you confront any of them? How did it affect you?
Man, I remember when everybody was transitioning from MySpace to Facebook, I got cyberbullied in like a group chat and it was
Mm.
all public and everybody was on it. And I remember I had to go to my mom's room because we were sharing laptops at the time. And I had to be like, Mom, they're like bullying me right now. I need the laptop. And I remember just getting on and all I did was comment on somebody for a uniform update that we were getting. And I was just like, oh yeah, I saw them this weekend, blah, 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 blah. And a bunch of the volleyball kids went and started just making fun of me.
What did they
And
say?
so, oh my God, they would make fun that I was fat. They'd make fun that I was gay and like that I was super feminine. And just the F word here and there.
Right.
And I would confront people that I was maybe friends with, if anything. Like if they weren't my friends, I would just tell them to fuck off.
Yeah.
I don't think I really entertained the idea, but I would try to avoid it all the time. And I was like friends with different groups of people. I wasn't popular, but I was friends with different groups of people, and a lot of people were really nice to me, even if they thought that was my rumor or my sexuality. So it was weird. Yeah.
Did you ever date anybody in high school?
Just girls.
Just girls?
Yeah, just girls. I wasn't until 11th grade. I go to a Getty, is what they call them, a get together.
Oh.
And it
Oh,
was
is that what we're going to a Getty?
Yeah, we're going to a Getty. And, and so it was for our rival school, Ferguson, and I went to Braddock. So I don't know why. I went with my best friend, my childhood best friend at the time. And there was this guy who he was a football player. He had a truck. He wanted to go be a pilot and a firefighter and super masculine. And everybody in the house party was like, he's gay. He's gay. Oh my God, he's gay. And I was like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
I was like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? Like he's playing beer pong and like broing it out. Like, no, he's not.
By the way, side tangent. Were you drinking at this party?
Yes.
Oh.
You were one of those kids.
I was. I didn't do it all the time. I didn't do it
Wow.
all the time. And I don't encourage underage drinking.
Thank you.
But I definitely was.
Were you like
Mhm.
wasted or were you tipsy?
I was definitely tipsy. Yeah.
You bad kids.
Yeah.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
tipsy. And I remember I was so extra, man. I remember me and my best friend, I told her and him, we were just talking casually into the night. And I was like, let's do a 3-way kiss. So I grabbed their fucking heads and I was like, I just put my tongue out. I didn't even kiss. I was like,
What
and
the-
And I literally ran to the bathroom and I was like, ew, that was so gross. And I started putting water in my mouth to clean myself out. I was such an asshole.
Oh my gosh, how dramatic.
So
Well, that is
dramatic.
very dramatic.
When I was the one who said to do it.
Oh
Yeah,
my
you-
god.
You don't do it, but then you're not. Gonna.
Yes.
Now, was he into it? Was he like, yeah?
Oh yeah, he was into it. And I was like, no. And then we get to the room, everybody's still partying. And at the time, my best friend was in love with me. Which that is also part of a story that I forgot.
Your best girlfriend?
Yes. She was in love with me and I had told her no. But that's a story, I guess for this time.
Yeah.
For this time.
I think that was before she confessed her love to me. But yeah, that was around that time because she was very on top of me at that party. And I remember he was like, come on, kiss me. And I was like, no. And he's like, just a pop. And I was like, whatever. So I go and I pop kiss him. And
Wait, when you say pop kiss, what does that
mean?
mean?
like a little peck.
Oh, little peck.
Yeah, a little
okay.
peck. And
Mhm.
I remember I was so like I felt disgusted the next day. And I couldn't eat and I wasn't like happy. And I don't understand why.
When you say disgusted, is
Mhm.
that the right word? Or are you maybe think like ashamed or
It could have been
uh,
disgusted because if you have turned yourself to think that that's not who you are,
Right.
then you would be disgusted with yourself for doing something that you would never have done. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like these feelings come from places that we tell ourselves that we belong in.
Right.
You regretted the decision the next day?
I did. And I remember just like I was at a buffet and I was like, I can't eat, man. I can't eat. I felt so bad. And then he messaged me on Facebook and he was trying to like connect again. And I was like, no, no, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And then I can't really remember what happened in between, but I was still very interested and I was still very like, I guess just excited about the whole idea of like possibly seeing him again.
Mhm.
And so they had one more party. I had told my best friend, I was like, I'm never going there again.
Oh,
If he's there, like I'm not going to be there. And she was like,
Dramatic.
no, he's leaving immediately once we get there. He has another party. And I was like, okay, fine. Like we'll just go. And we end up hooking up.
hooking
Wait,
up.
hold on. There are different
Wait a damn minute,
definitions.
we just jumped into that.
Okay, so you went from being disgusted to aw. Okay, so when you say hooked up, are you
Yes.
talking about like a makeout session or did more happen?
A lot more happened.
Did you have sex?
I wouldn't say sex, but pretty close to it. So this is gonna sound gross. We were in his bedroom and
And the party was at his house?
the party was at his house again. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was a couple on the other bed kissing and making out, which was his brother, actually. And it was me and him and another girl,
Wait, the three of
the
you?
three of us. And I was in the center.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
sometimes you got the gateway things. is the
Right.
gateway.
I tell you, high schoolers, y'all nasty. Oh
Nasty.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
Nasty, yeah.
Insane.
Wait, so how did this girl get involved?
She was just there. She was just there and she was all up into it. I won't get into great details, but yeah. We all did our thing.
Maybe she was the buffer, for
Mm.
what could have been a potentially uncomfortable encounter with
Mm-hmm.
the two of you.
I was enjoying it. I was like, I had a lot of fun.
Mm.
I was in the middle and I was just enjoying it, and no actual penetrative sex happened. But everything else did. So
Mhm.
So after that, what emotions were you feeling?
I was even more confused
Yeah, I was
because
gonna say, a lot of confusion here.
why did I like both? Like, why did I like both experiences? I didn't feel disgusted. I felt like, oh, I kind of liked it. I finally accepted, I think, if anything, oh, I liked this. Because I
Mhm.
started talking to him. And then it became like, I want to say I fell in love. I don't know. Like, it was very much, we had conversations. I was starting to call him babe. We were calling each other babe at one point. And, but I was weird about it too, because he would come and pick me up. We'd go into the corner and make out. And then I would tell him, stop, I don't like this. And then we would go make out again. And then at one point I told him, hey, I like you, but like, I think it's better off that you go with somebody who's gay, like in the closet. who's truly gay, like go out with him. And this was a guy who me and him did not get along with. We were in theater and everybody called him gay too. And so I was like, go to him. Like, I think you'd be better off with him. And so I got super in my feelings. They ended up hitting it off.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then
Classic high school love story.
literally,
Man,
I led him to someone else.
Oh, you
it's
pushed him
so
right into the arms of another man.
I did.
God, I just know how those feelings felt. And I mean, it's like everything is like the biggest, your life is either going to continue or going to end
Right.
every day
Yes. And it
with
got
these
to,
feelings.
man, I would wake up and I'd think about him immediately. And it was just so dumb. And that's why I think it was love, because I don't know, like it was weird. It was like not obsessive, but it was like, what is he up to? Why isn't he writing back to me? Where is he? And then that finally ended up fizzling out, thankfully.
Now, was this the end of your junior year, or was this going into senior year? And all this is going down.
This is all in junior year.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So you go through the summer between junior and senior year. What's your state of mind going into your last year of high school?
I'm excited. I'm doing all the clubs. I'm trying not to go to community college. So I get in every single honor society. I do every single club. And I'm just like filling up as much as I can the last year, which I ended up going to community college. And it was fine. Senior year was great. I kind of like, I pushed aside that whole little era, my gay era. And I just kind of packaged it, went somewhere else, and I never really revisited. But yeah, I go to college. I don't think anything crazy happened in college, because I did my year and a half in Miami-Dade College and I enjoyed it.
So you were still living at home at the time?
Correct.
Okay, so
Correct.
you're going to a commuter school. Are you working at this time?
Yes, I started working at Bass Pro Shops. The summer.
What did you?
my cousin was working there. My cousin was working there, and we're not that close. But I was like, "Oh, like, do you like it here?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's fun." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I applied to be in the clothing department. And yeah,
You're over
I
there.
have to imagine it's kind of fun to work there,
it's
right?
so much fun. I would look
Yeah.
forward to work.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. There's like it's like I've never actually been to one, but I know what they look like on the inside and I know what it's about. And it's just like a big old playground for people.
It's just fun. It is a playground. Like, there were a lot of days that I just did not work. I just walked around, hit a little bit.
Yeah.
But my first job there in the clothing department was awful. I had a terrible manager. I ended up helping getting her fired.
Oh.
Because I had to write a letter as a witness. She tried to run somebody over.
What?
Yes.
With her vehicle?
Yes.
What the hell happened?
She was like the closing manager one night. This was years into like working at Bass Pro Shops. But I was talking to one of the girls. She was waiting for me to get picked up. And we don't think that she heard us talking about her. So we didn't think anything of it. It was too far. And so whatever, as she's walking towards her car, my friend is like, "Hey, I'm gonna head home now. Okay, are you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." All of a sudden, that manager had stayed in her car, waited for her to start walking towards her car, like my coworker, revved it, and went like really close to her.
Oh my God.
Extremely close. Where like she turned around and me and her started laughing because we were like, what the fuck just happened? And so the next day, the manager confronts her and she's like, "What were you saying? What were you doing this?" Or something of whatever. And she starts crying. She goes to HR. HR talks to that said manager, and that manager still goes back up to that girl again to talk to her.
Wow.
And so they reviewed the camera footage and they were like, "Kelbin, you're a witness. Can you write a letter saying what you saw?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
Why do I feel like when you sit
Absolutely.
down to write that letter, you're like dressed up like you're Olivia Pope and you're like, "I'm here to provide the witness statement."
Bitch, signed, sealed, and delivered. I was so happy. I was so
That is
happy. That
crazy.
woman
That's
was so mean.
crazy.
Oh,
Yeah. And not well either if you're gonna run someone over with your
Mm-mm.
Wow. All right. So you're in your year and a half and then you go to a university?
Yes,
Where?
I go to the University of Florida for my last 2 years of school.
And what'd you study?
TV production.
Okay. So you're in Gainesville.
Yes.
What was that experience like? I mean, because Miami, Gainesville.
Yes.
two different things.
Culture shock, completely different.
Mm-hmm.
I remember crying like the first 2 days because I'd moved and I was sad, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of change all at once. But the minute that I started finding a friend group, I actually signed up for what I thought was a news thing. It ended up being an acting thing for a TV show that they were producing. It was like a side club thing. And I was like, oh, I want to be a news personality. No, it was to act. And I was like, fuck. And so I was already in it, and I was like, okay, fine. I got the lead role, and like the show it's a college little run show that was called Off University. And it was so much fun. I mean, that's how I cultivated friends, by doing that show. And then being in the lead, I had to be in every single episode. And so shoot days were fun. And then after that, I joined a friend's food show that she had started. And I simply had asked her, hey, Tanai, like, can I record for you? Can I edit for you? And she's like, no, I want you to host. And I was like, okay. And so I kind of joined her thing, and I started to kind of edit certain things that she was doing, and we were able to build that show up. And I started getting recognized in Gainesville, which is really cool. We were like offered a lot of free food to review and do videos at these restaurants. And it was kind of like a diners and drivers, drive-ins, and dives. Yes. The episodes are up on YouTube. They're so cringy. I did not care how I looked. It was really bad. But some episodes were fun. I don't think I was a good host back then, but I thought I was. And I was the only one doing that kind of stuff. So at the time, I was like, good.
Yeah.
What is it called?
It's called Out in the Ville. It's so there's one episode. The Bluefish. Is it Bluefish? Bad. I was wearing a Columbia fishing shirt, and I didn't get a haircut.
Oh.
But it was shot beautifully.
That's okay. I mean, things happen.
Memories.
It's younger years.
Got a college Emmy out of it.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how long did this go on for the 2 years you were there?
Yes, I was there for, I think I did it for a year.
What did you want to do with your like college experience? Like, what were you going towards?
I wanted to do news. I originally wanted to do news. And when I realized that it was really hard to get into it, I was just like, I'm doing the production route. I will just produce the things that I want to be in. And every time in these production classes, they needed a like someone to be in camera. Me, I would do it. I'll do it. I'll be the one. Because everybody didn't want to be on camera. And I was like, I'll do it. I'll be the one. And so I did that. And then that's when I joined Out in the Ville. And yeah, and we did so well. I remember after our first year doing it, we had a line straight out the door of people auditioning to be hosts. And so it was like really successful, and we were super happy about it.
Dang.
And then the minute I graduated, I applied for the Emmys to be, considered, and we got the call that we won, but we couldn't tell anybody. And they were going to fly us out. They flew us out to LA. And it was the whole thing. I got to meet Jane Lynch, Corbin Bleu from High School Musical.
Wow.
Who else was there? Oh, the guy from Colton Hayes from
Teen Wolf. Yes,
so
absolutely.
fucking hot.
Yes,
got to meet him. So it was really cool. It was really fun, and we got to have like a really nice experience. There was producers from TV people out there, or TV producers were out there. And it was a really cool experience.
When you were there,
that's a cool ass thing that happened out of college,
right?
Shit.
And I come back to Miami because at the time I got a job at the property appraiser office because I couldn't find anything. And so when the Emmys were happening, I was like, "Hey, I need this week off. I'm winning an Emmy." They were like, "We don't know if you can." I was like, "I need it."
Lies.
I told them I was like, "I need it. I need to," and they were like, "Okay." And so I go back, and I'm thinking, "Okay, fine." I came back with an interview for the radio station that I eventually was going to work for. And so I felt myself. I was like, I'm good. I have my Emmy. I'm not going to be in this office much longer. I was at the office for another like 7 months, maybe 6 months. And I did not get the job at the radio station. And I don't know why, because I did very well in my interview. And then I ended up going to the DMV because I wanted some benefits, and it was easy to go from county to state job. And I did that for like 9 months, and it was terrible. Like, it was pretty bad. And yeah, with the worst customers I've ever dealt with in my life.
What I always say that I feel like for a lot of people that first year out of college is usually one of the worst years as an adult, because you go from this high of graduating and winning an Emmy and being at the top of your game to being a very, very, very small fish in a very, very large pond.
Correct.
And no one sort of prepares students for that transition. So like, what was it like for you when you were going and driving into the DMV every day?
I hated it. I remember listening to Elvis Duran, and they were doing a segment where they were like, call us and tell us what you want and we'll make it happen. And so somebody called and they were like, I want more followers. Okay, what's your Instagram? I want this, blah, blah, blah. I want a t-shirt, whatever. I called in and I was like, I want a job. I want a job with Elvis Duran. And the producer was like, let's see if like we'll do this. And I was just so close. And they were like, sorry, like we're just not going to go with it. And I was like, okay.
And you're like, oh, well, then maybe just don't call it. We give you what you want,
Right,
because you're not going to.
Literally. So I remember that specific moment. I remember, and that was right before the DMV, and I wouldn't care going in late because I hated that fucking job. But they were really anal about that. And I hustled. I honestly hustled a lot. I was trying to come up with my own web show where I was going to the rallies during 2016, the Trump and Hillary era.
Yes.
And that was interesting. Went to a few Trump rallies and Hillary rallies. And I never ended up doing it because I didn't have a good co-host. Like, she was just so unreliable. But I was hustling every day. I would ask people where they worked, what they did, what connections they had, every single customer, always. And finally, I meet somebody who went to UF, worked at an advertising agency. And I was like, are you guys hiring? And she was like, yeah, we are. And it's a really fun place. And I got the job. I ended up going there, and it was for 3 months.
Wait, hold on. So you're sitting here at the DMV helping people get their licenses,
And
also trying to
begging for
find a
jobs.
job.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh. So you go to this advertising agency. What are your duties there?
I have no idea till this day what the fuck I was doing. I literally had no idea.
Okay.
And like a month in, they were like, hey, let's actually tell you what you're doing. And I was like, okay.
Oh, good.
And I was just working on an Excel sheet every single day and making sure the spots were going in the right places. And I became an Excel pro. I still to this day have no idea what I was doing. And I was handling like CNN, MTV, like all these like media budget commercials that we were producing. And so at one point, I think I got my friend fired. I had told him when it was my 3-month review that 1, this is the amount of money I want. And 2, I want to be trained into the other department. And at the time, there was this weird drama at that office. Like, I was never involved. I didn't care. But they didn't like that one girl that I was really good friends with. She was the sweetest person ever. And I guess they took me saying that as like an opportunity to be like, okay, well, like, let's replace her with him. And so they did that.
Oh.
And I was like,
wait, so the girl that got you a job.
Not that one.
Okay.
Just a different girl.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Yes. But it was great. Like, that job got me out of credit card debt, and I made some really good friends out of it. And that was that for the 3 months. I end up getting a text in the middle of my job there. And it's a friend that I made at my internship in Y100 in Miami that I did for a few months during college. And she's like, hey, we have a traffic position open. Do you want to come over? And I was like, part-time, I'm going to lose my benefits. I just got this position, my raise. I was like, yes, let's fucking do it. And so I go in. I was so embarrassing. I don't know if you guys know who Jill Strata is, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's like she was a very big wig in Miami radio.
Yes. And I remember telling her, like, I'm really good with social. I love being a personality, and I love listening to DJ Laz and Kimmy B. I just grew up listening to them. So I love it. I love everything radio. And I told her, and I just started getting 100 likes on my Instagram.
Oh.
And this bitch discovered DJ Khaled. She
the-
discovered Khaled and a bunch of other people. And I was like, I just started getting 100 likes.
Shit, like, in all seriousness, you said this to Jill Strata, who's like, that's
She's
good for you.
Literally.
That's nice, sweetie. I'm so glad you got your 100 likes.
So embarrassing.
Why would you even say
Meanwhile, her morning show, DJ Laz, is like Pitbull's best friend.
Literally.
Yes, like, they don't give up about, like, they have lost count of all the likes. And she's like, oh, that's still a thing.
100.
Oh.
Like, to me, that was a big deal at the time.
Yeah,
I was like,
I know.
good.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
funny.
you're
I wish she remembered that. Maybe she probably does. I don't know.
Girl.
That's funny. That's funny.
So you're doing traffic reports for hits 90, what was it?
97.3.
97.3 in Miami, working for Cox Media Group.
Yes.
So this is your first time finally working in media,
Yes.
like the way that you wanted. And how many years are we removed from college now?
So I started November 2017. I graduated December 2015. So about
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're working in what you wanted to do 2
Yes.
years after college. What was this like?
Amazing. Everything. I felt euphoria driving back home, and I drove like an hour, like from Kendall to Hollywood, and it never bothered me. I was like, this is what I fucking wanted to do for a long time. This is it. I'm gonna grow from here. And like I was so happy doing the little mini tasks and being Kimmy's bitch. It was great. And I got to work with somebody. I have this toxic trait. I work with people that I absolutely love. And so as I'm here. And I remember just like really getting to know Kimmy, because this was somebody that I grew up with, not grew up with, but I had just graduated college and I was listening to her and I always agreed with her. I always was texting in. I was always calling in and saying like, you're fucking right. Thank you for standing up for us. She would always stand up for gay rights. And, you know, DJ Laz, who's very well known in Miami, is very machismo. And so he would say a lot of really crazy shit. And so I love that she always put him in his place. And so I got to finally see her behind the mic. And that was an experience. And we grew closer. And like, I can't believe I can say that I became really good friends with Kimmy B, somebody that I just really respect in the industry. And then you truly get to know radio personalities when you work with them. It's fucking insane.
It's a different thing.
It's so different.
Like
Different
we
thing.
are, like this is who we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also this is the most entertaining because what we do is entertainment.
Right.
Right.
And so there are other sides of us that the public does not see.
Correct.
Like this, we're giving you the best right
Right,
now, which
yes.
that may be saying something. And I'm like, look at how I'm showing up today. This is my best. So think about how my family feels. Like that's sometimes what I think about with my kid, where I'm like, she probably is like, why does like all these people seem to love my mom? My mom is such a like a
my
B word
God.
sometimes. And she's not funny and she's always telling me what to do. And I'm just like, I know. So anyway, I feel you.
Yeah, I got to work with somebody I really respected in the industry too, a morning show producer. He ended up becoming not a fan of me, and that was really disappointing. But that was that. I've talked about it with you guys before. I got to work with Al P, which I loved, always listening. He was doing nights, and I would literally be in an Uber, drunk, pre-gamed, getting ready to go to the club, and I would hear his voice, and I'd be like, I fucking love him. And I got to meet him, and we are still friends to this day as well. So I loved working with him. And yeah, that was my first year in radio. I realized that I wasn't the superstar anymore. And that was a transition. Like when you had talked about being the big fish in the little tank, like I legit was the tiniest fish in that building. It was so mind-blowing. But yeah, I grew from there. I did traffic with Kimmy for a year. Then the next year they took me off and they were like, Kimmy's doing her own traffic. Now you're going to help Dia, who's someone else who went to UF, and she helped me get set up at CMG at Cox Radio. And we also hit it off and became the bestest of friends. And she ended up becoming APD, sort of,
and
without
that
the
is
title. Sorry,
assistant program director.
correct. She actually became music director, but she had
Okay.
all the APD duties. And so I ended up becoming not her assistant, but like I basically helped her with a lot of things that she needed because it was a lot. They had fired our APD, and she was like drowning. And so I tried to help her as much as I could. And then I realized that I needed a second job. So I started teaching at a trade school, Miami Media School. And I did that for a few months. I kind of checked off my list. I've always wanted to be a teacher. And so I did that, and that was really enjoyable. Great money. And then finally, a few months after that, I think 2 or 3 or 4, maybe, I get a job as a social media manager at a car dealership. And it's a car dealership that has a great relationship with the radio station, with my girl Mo. And she is the most bubbly human being ever. Legit Elle Woods, if she was a marketing VIP, like VP. And I just loved working for her. And that was fun. I was making incredible money. And then COVID happened. And me and Dia at one point tried to pitch a morning show. And we were told to keep it secret. And that made tension throughout the radio station. So that was a really weird time for me right before the pandemic.
Now, hold on. Let's back up a second.
Yes.
So DJ Laz was doing mornings on your radio
Yes.
station, the legendary, DJ and morning show host in Miami.
Yes.
And then the station and him sort of part ways with each other at the end of his contract. Because I remember hearing about that because we were in Tampa
Yes.
Yeah.
at the time, and I was like, "Ooh, I wonder if they'll try to put us on in Miami."
Of course, Miguel coming in off line. He's like, Holly, are you ready for Miami? I'm like, no.
Yes.
I was like, nothing is ain't nobody putting us on. I'm like, just because your name is Miguel, that does not mean nothing. You're not putting us on there. I'm too white.
Oh my gosh. And so that was the talk of like, who's going to take over the morning show in Miami?
Right.
And so you were pitching a morning show with your friend Dia.
Yes, because they had their producer hold it down, and after a while, it was just him by himself. And I don't know, but I don't think maybe they were happy with that. And after a while, during the pandemic started, all the shutdowns happened. They also fired the other female co-host because she was really problematic. We were all in limbo because we didn't know what was going to happen. So like me and Dia would have our 8-hour days, and then we would continue working at the station. Like I would leave the car dealership and be like, come on, let's cut audio. Let's cut this promo. Let's do this bio. Let's show them what we got. And we got to work with Steve Smith was his name, right?
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. And he really was like, he was a great help for us. He would listen to our stuff. He would sit down and listen to it and give us advice. And it felt like finally I'm getting pitched for a morning show at a station that I love listening to. Like, this is fucking insane. And then the shutdown happened. And we were in limbo for months. Had no idea. We became Quarantine Radio 97.3.
I remember seeing that.
Doing like, who was on the station in the morning at that time?
It was just their producer.
Just the producer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just talking over song intros.
Because we were, like scrambling on our end too to figure out what was going to look like for us. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I get a call on May 4th, 2020, and it's from Jill Strata. And Jill says, we're putting you on mornings. We're going to put you with Kimmy, and we're going to put you with Al. And I was like, okay.
You're like, that's not what I thought was gonna,
But what about my friend Dia that you had been auditioning with?
Dia ended up getting afternoons. And it's funny because at the time, Dia was whispering in my ear, like, hey, they're having these talks, but even I don't know anything. So I would get little inside info here and there, but it wasn't anything too crazy. And so I thought, okay, well, like if they're starting to rebuild the shows, then that means they're probably going to put us in afternoons probably or nights. And she's like, yeah, it's probably happening. And so that's what we expected. Did not expect that. It became the SoFlo morning show. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't being treated like a part-timer where it's not that they don't care. It's just that they focus in radio. They really focus on the main slots. And so I was finally being looked at, and I felt so good. It felt great to finally just like people to care about my opinion on what I thought, what the segments should be called. And it was just such a cool experience. I'll never forget that. And I didn't feel any imposter syndrome because I felt like I had practiced a lot and did a lot with Dia, and we would do live shows on the weekends together. And I just thought I had a little bit of imposter syndrome because I thought I'm supposed to have a night show, supposed to do middays, and then I'm supposed to have an afternoon show and then get on mornings. And I think with great timing and obviously with COVID, I think that kind of just skyrocketed me up to mornings, which like I was grateful for and I still am. But man, I always tell people my radio career is not normal compared to other people.
No, because normally you do all the other time slots before you get to be able to do mornings, and especially in a major market like Miami. That's
Correct.
a big market.
But it's not that it's unheard of. It happens, but I would say it's much less frequently than the tried and true, like first you're going to do nights and then
Right.
It does happen, but yeah, pretty rare.
Super. And I loved it. I loved it. I was at my peak fitness. I was super skinny. I loved being on camera, but everything was shut down. So nobody really got to see me at my peak fitness level. But it was fun. I learned a lot. I learned a lot.
That's the best way to learn, because I'm assuming the sigh is holy bleep. This was a lot of probably some traumatic experiences. But that's where you actually do learn the most, because that's why you say you learn a lot, because it's not necessarily always pretty or fun, but you do learn.
It's not. And you know what they say about morning shows, like I guess this is radio talk, insider talk. Like some morning shows do not get along. Some morning shows absolutely love each other, but it's more rare that a lot of morning shows may not like each other so much. And we genuinely loved hanging out with each other, but we all had our things. Like I had my thing, Al had his thing, Kimmy had her thing. But ultimately, like we would hang out outside of work. And so so that was a really fun time because we had no one else during the pandemic. We were one of the first people to go back in and do shows live out of the studio. And so that was an experience in itself. I feel like I had a halfway morning show experience.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get the full, like, we're hosting this and we're doing this, and so it was weird, but I'm grateful for the experience nonetheless.
Yeah, any show that started in the pandemic time like that was they had a rough go.
Girl, we launched the day after Blackout Tuesday.
Oh, after George Floyd.
Yes. The black squares all over Instagram.
That's a fun day to have social commentary for a first new morning show.
Girl.
Like, well.
I remember in Tampa at the time, our competition, which is now our sister station on FLZ, the Joe Show, they started right around that time. And I remember thinking, I was like, even though they're our competition, my heart goes out for them because like for us at that time, we'd been in Tampa for 6 years. So we had a rapport. And so like, I remember that Tuesday when we came back, we cut all the segments out and we just took phone calls and we just talked to the community to see how they feel. But we had built up the trust to be able to do that. But when it's your first day, nobody gives a fuck what you have to say about that.
Exactly.
No, they're not accidentally flipping over to you for that. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Correct. And after just firing like one of their last well-known people on the station, their producer, that was a lot, but it didn't interfere, thankfully, because Kimmy was already well known for that station, and so was Al. And so it was kind of easy to get it all started. 9 months in, no, not even a year and 3 months in after, because we started in June. They end up firing my two co-hosts after a year and 3 months in September. And it's Kimmy goes in first. I can hear from outside the door what the conversation is, and we are freaking out, me and Al. And Al is wrong about a lot of shit. Al is the goofiest, tiniest little chicken nugget. But he is wrong about a lot of shit. This was the first time and I could ever say that Al was right. He had predicted this and he was like, I think they're going to let us go. Like if they're not we had brought up so many things in meetings and they were just never give the energy for it. And I was like, yeah, I've been here before. Like, I think they're going to let us go. And I was like, no, Al, shut up. Like, that's not ever going to happen. They're never going to let go of Kimmy. They end up letting go of Kimmy. And I was like, holy fuck. But a part of me was calm. Part of me was like, okay, like this is part of radio. This is part of what I signed up for. It happens to everybody. My bounce back is going to be great. Al goes in and I kind of cut off Al and I'm like, can I just go? Can I just go next, please? Like, I don't want to be the last person. And they were like, no. Like they put my boss put his hand on my chest and he was like, no. And I was like, okay. So then I go. Al leaves. My boss comes in tears and he's like, come on, let's talk. And I was like, holy fuck. And so I go in with a badass attitude. Our general manager's there. And I'm like, just tell me. Just let's get it over with. Just tell me and let's just move on. And he's like, we're making some changes. We had to let go of Kimmy and Al. But we are not letting go of you. And I was like, oh, face crack, gagged. What? And so they were like, we're going to simplify the show. You're going to be off for a week as we rebuild. And we're going to start playing more golds, which in radio talk, that's more like throwback songs, well-known throwback songs. And that's how we're going to do this radio station now. And we're not going to have a night person anymore. Yeah. And I don't know. They were just doing a lot of changes. And I was
doing a lot of stuff in Miami. Because I remember when they came through and we heard about this plan, I feel like Miguel and I were like, wait, what's going on in Miami now?
Right?
It was insane.
Even
insane.
within the same company, we were like,
It was, yes. It was so wild. It was so left. I was so uncomfortable. I don't know what his position was, but he was above our GM. He was like not happy with the way I explained on my first day on air. That he felt that it was very dumb of me to talk about COVID budgets without even giving me a plan to address these people that were upset. And I had to answer back every single DM. Everybody was angry. Like it was awful. And nobody prepared me for that on my first day back. So that was that experience. And I did it for about 9 months. And I talked to Miguel within those few months. And I remember getting advice from you and what you had thought. And I think you guys were transitioning too about leaving your last place. And so we were all kind of in the same headspace as it came to our company. And yeah, I think the money was great. It was the best I've ever gotten paid in radio. But I was not happy. Like, I was genuinely not happy. And I was hosting stuff. I was doing grand openings. I was getting paid stupid money for doing 30-second commercials. Like, it was everything that I had wanted and everything I didn't want at the same time. It was weird.
It's like you
Yeah.
get half of the dream, where it's like you are getting this, fortune part of it, but the fame part isn't really like the actual going and doing your job, because you wanted to be on a show, not just by yourself,
Correct.
talking over song intros.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so then you see that there is an opening and at this time, you don't know that we're leaving yet, but you do see a job opening for Hits 96.3 in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes.
And you, without knowing who the morning show is, that it would be us, you just applied.
I sure did.
You just said,
I sure did. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my coworkers. And I know Oscar's going to hear this and be like, you didn't even mention me. And so I would like to also talk about that.
Yes.
He was there with me from day one of my radio career. And, well, not day one, but a few months in. But where I was still doing part-time. And he was a huge support system for me during that time. Through every single year, really, in radio. Every time I would cry to him and tell him, like, yo, they're not fucking listening. They don't care about me. They're using me to, oh my God, my coworkers did this and that, and all the transition and everything. And so all that happened in between. And he was a huge proponent of me being like, you are unhappy. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. What is the worst that can happen? Like, you clearly are not happy with what you're doing. You're not happy here. And he's like, I'm ready to move on in my career too. And yeah. And so he was a huge proponent of that. And he's probably like a really big reason why I'm here. But also, like, if I knew that I was able to work with you guys, I was like, fuck yes. Like, this is a team that I really respect and very much enjoy. And so yeah, I had applied, got the interview. Didn't know if they were real interviews, but they were, now that I'm thinking about it, because they were so casual and nice with Daddy AJ and our boss, Carlisle.
Yeah.
I forgot his name. Carlisle.
Dave.
And yeah. And then now I'm here.
And then here we are.
Here we are.
Kelbin's origin story. Fantastic.
I love it. I do
Yes.
want to ask you a question, though, and that is, where did you and Oscar meet?
See, honey, we will talk about you. So he's the day that Instagram in 2018 came out with the question box sticker, where you
Mhm.
could attach it to your story and people could ask you questions. And I remember being on air with Kimmy, and I was like, Kimmy, oh my God, we should do this. This will be fun. People get to ask us whatever. And he sent me a DM and he had said, can I take you out sometime? And I was like,
okay, dang.
And my Tinder matches were popping at that time because I had just updated like my career. And I remember Tinder had sent me a notification saying, good job. Your job change is revving up your likes. And I was like,
Oh
okay.
my
I'm
God.
sorry.
So-
Like, that makes me a little mad. Like,
Yeah.
at Tinder in
Yeah.
general, like, just all the implications of that. Like, oh, you have a better looking career, so you should have more. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh no.
And so he DMs
Anyway.
me, and I'm not the one to like be asked out. I don't have that much history, dating history. I just I don't know what it was. Like, maybe I just had no game, but I would go on a few dates. Guys wouldn't hit on me ever. And so yeah, I had a lot of hookups during like my single life. Didn't really date much. And this like cute guy just DMs me and wants to take me out. Well, a few cute guys had DM'd me, but he was one of them. And I was like, sure. And we talked, and he was in the middle of some road trip with his best friends, and he planned this whole thing. We're gonna go to Jax's ice cream shop, which is a really popular spot in Dayton Beach. And I remember just being so hungry, and I was acting like a diva and I didn't realize it. And I was like, hey, can we not wait in this line and go somewhere else?
Oh.
And so I change his whole ass plan, and we go to this like sports bar sort of thing on the beach.
Oh.
And it was on a pier, and we didn't realize that. By the time that we step out, the beach was right there. So it's super romantic. Pop that first kiss. And it was beautiful under the moonlight.
Oh.
And then yeah, we spent the rest of the day just talking on a lifeguard post. And yeah, and that was our first date.
Did y'all do it?
The first time we did it was at the radio station.
Oh!
Yeah. Sorry, Oscar.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that was really fun. That was super fun.
Wow. How many dates did it take for that to happen?
You know, I don't kiss and tell.
No, we just have about an hour of you kissing and telling, so you better.
Literally. I don't know, but I would say a few weeks.
Second, third date?
It's okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but it definitely longer than a month.
Okay,
Yeah, longer than a month. And it wasn't a date. I think we were just like gonna hang out, but he had come to the radio station. I think it was covering nights or something. And I was like, hey, do you want to go see the production room?
Do you want to go see the production room?
That's all
him not even knowing what a damn production room is.
Oh, he learned that day.
You're about to learn what being a
that's
production
right.
all about.
Okay.
That's right.
Oh my God.
Period.
I love that that's how your origin story ends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But I was curious.
Well, now you're here with us, and we are so happy that we have you on the team, Kelbin.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, very much.
I love it. Well, that is Kelbin's origin story. Now on Wednesday, we get Holly O'Connor's origin story.
I just got very nervous. Like as Kelbin was winding down, I was like, oh God.
Why are you
All right.
nervous, Holly?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Oh
I'll figure
God.
out how to put all this my crazy pieces together.
Holly's gonna come in with some cliff notes to be like, all right, here are the points we're gonna stick to.
I'm
And
gonna
this is
have
it.
like
It's
I
helpful.
have like a little notebook and just go over something.
All right. Well, we will see you back here Wednesday. Thank you, Kelbin.
Thank you.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Catch it on the iHeartRadio app or any